Growing up in the mid-2000s and 2010s, I experienced what some may argue was the last dying breath of the traditional indoor shopping mall. Of course, some of these malls still exist, but the expansion of online retail and strip malls have greatly decreased their popularity. Shopping has become a much more solitary activity, despite decades of the mall functioning as a communal, social, semi-public space. In the prime days of the shopping mall, they acted as a sort of town center for the suburban class. Removed from the crime, homelessness, and drug use associated with the inner city, white families were happy to use them as a social alternative. Lynn A. Staheli and Don Mitchell's article, USA's Destiny, Regulating Space and Creating Community in American Shopping Malls, explores this idea. Shopping centers, which are separated from the old downtown by distance and which are often designed to mirror superficial features of the old town square, seem for many people to be the new heart of the legitimate public, where sociability, civility, and commerce again flourish. These superficial features include the large open areas where people can congregate for a variety of activities that the mall may host. Notably, most of these activities that build community within the mall also include a price tag. By pricing out certain demographics and isolating the mall so that it can only be accessed by car, the mall management can curate their desired demographic of shoppers. Staheli and Mitchell argue that the regulation of the spaces of the mall is intended to create community rather than a public. In the process of creating community, the political potential of public space and the quality of the publicity created are contorted so as to muffle political opposition and critique in the name of civility. Essentially, this means that shopping malls were designed for a middle-class white audience. They acted as an exclusive community by positioning themselves as places where families can go to connect with their like-minded neighbors without much fear of outside influences. This position is explained in the 1993 article, Magic of the Mall by John Goss. The key is not so much the design features of the shopping mall, but centralized retail management and leasing strategies, which would include levels of security and maintenance well beyond that provided by municipal authorities, market research, cooperative advertising, common business hours, common covenants, and a regulated tenant mix. The corporate intervention within the mall allowed the space to be manipulated in ways that other public spaces couldn't. By falling in this space between public and private, the white middle class was so catered to that it became culturally entwined with the shopping mall. For a majority of the 20th century, the mall was an ever-present force in the mainstream American consciousness. But this couldn't last forever. The way that people interact with retail consumption has changed since the golden era of the shopping mall. Now, most shopping is done online or at big box stores like Walmart or Target. These places notably lack any sort of communal area. Even the in-store Starbucks that some Targets have become increasingly seatless, to-go only pickup counters. The United States specifically has seen a trend in recent decades of these large retail complexes popping up and thriving near dying shopping malls. This marks a shift away from shopping as a social activity into a solitary one. Whereas shopping malls have plenty of seating, open floor space for congregating, and even an occasional event, these big box stores are designed to keep you walking. There is little to no seating, and most of the store is made of arrows that become too narrow if you stop to talk to someone in one. I argue that this shift in the public's relationship with shopping can be tracked through the independent media that is made inside of shopping malls. To illustrate this, I will focus on two short pieces of independent media, one from 1983 and the other from 2023. I'm going to focus on the portions that happen in the mall rather than the whole of each piece. These videos were created by everyday people who had an idea and the shopping mall was accessible to them to make it a reality. While there are surely counter-arguments or other instances of shopping mall media that doesn't agree with my perspective, I think Possibly in Michigan from 1983 by Cecilia Condit and The Oldest View 2023 by Kane Parsons or Kane Pixels are perfect examples of how the public's relationship with shopping has changed. There are a lot of things I could say about this topic, and I definitely won't get to everything I want to say, but who knows, maybe I'll make a part 2. And with that all being said, let's start talking about the mall. There are countless notable examples of malls that appear in comedies, dramas, romances, and more. But above all, the shopping mall has become a prime location for horror movies. Dawn of the Dead 1978, Night of the Comet 1984, and The Initiation 1984 are just a few of the horror movies set in malls that began to pop up in the late 70s and early 80s. This genre hit its peak in the late 80s with movies like Chopping Mall in 1986 and Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge in 1989. The trend continues into the modern day with movies like Fear Street 1994, 2019, and series like Stranger Things that has been going from 2016 to 2025. Following the original Dawn of the Dead, but before many of the other shopping mall horrors that came at the end of the 80s, an independent filmmaker was also experimenting with horror at the mall. Cecilia Conde is a living artist whose most famous work is Possibly in Michigan, 1983. The description of the video reads, Possibly in Michigan is a musical horror story about two young women who are stalked through a shopping mall by the cannibal Arthur. He follows them home, and here, the victims become the aggressors. The video starts in an active shopping mall, and the architecture of the space adds to the atmosphere. The viewer starts at a high vantage point, looking down across the mall, panning across a fountain and many indoor plants that are obstructing the view. Feels like we're surveying the scene, and with the music, maybe more like a predator stalking our prey. Cecilia, as her character Shannon, enters the frame from an opening elevator that raises her above the artificial tree line and puts her at the same vantage point as the predator. When the focus shifts to a set of display mannequins, it feels like an attempt to simulate other life with her in the mall. Like the indoor trees simulating real nature, the mannequins are a recreation of social life. The mall is open, bright, airy, and even colorful, but there are no other shoppers. The reflective surfaces in the display windows reveal that it's empty behind her as well. The only other beings with her are these vibrantly dressed recreations. This mirrors the position of the shopping mall itself. The mall is like a town center. It's free to enter with public seating and open space, but it's not real. If you try to protest in the mall like you can in a true public square, you'd likely get removed by the mall security. The whole environment is artificial. It's a performance of community. But beneath the surface, something more sinister is lurking. Someone else. This person, Arthur, is not quite human. He can walk, yet he seems to have more in common with the display mannequins than other people. Once Arthur enters, the mall comes to life. Sharon descends the escalator, placing her back on the metaphorical hunting ground, while Arthur remains on the top floor. Another woman sits at a table with her back to the escalator. Maybe Sharon wasn't blindly entering this vulnerable space. Maybe she was luring Arthur into it. The introduction of Janice changes the dynamic. There's safety in numbers. 2 women against a man is much different than 1 woman and a man. She is not alone with him, but he is alone with them.
Sharon attracted violent men. Strangely, she had a way of making the violence seem like it was their idea. Her friend Janice was cut from the same mold. They even liked the same perfume. Arthur, who had been following them closely, was similarly disposed. The 3 of them had 2 things in common: violence and perfume.
This one here smells great.
Which one?
Smells like Mother's crazy sister Kate.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I do.
It smells so good. She couldn't have been that crazy. I don't think so.
Oh, you don't think so, huh?
No.
Well, she put her poodle one time in a microwave oven.
To eat it?
Yeah.
To eat it?
Oh, no. No, silly. To dry it.
No.
But it exploded, and they were both found dead.
The whole scene is violent, but it's masked in a layer of civility. Nothing too violent is shown, and the concerning dialogue is masked in a cheery tone. Similarly, the mall employs pleasant aesthetics, greenery, and certain elements of outdoor town squares to mask its role in consumerism and racialized economic exclusion, which are integral to maintaining its existence. John Goss talks about the tactics used when designing a shopping mall. In constructing an attractive place image for the shopping center, developers have, with remarkable persistence, exploited a modernist nostalgia for authentic community, perceived to only exist in past and distant places, and have promoted the conceit of the shopping center as an alternative focus for modern community life. Cecilia's characters exploit the perceived notion of women as fragile, poised, and most importantly, nonviolent. This isn't to say that Cecilia was intentionally critiquing shopping mall culture in the video. Instead, I want to show how this concept can be applied to her work because of its creation in the era of the shopping mall. Through shopping and participating in polite society, she can mask her true intentions, and the mall is happy to assist her in this effort. Behind the scenes, there are other implications of her filming in an operating shopping mall. As a white, middle-class woman, Cecilia could access the mall and use it as a backdrop for her art. She fit the definition of community that the mall encouraged, but she uses her access to subvert what the mall's purpose is. No longer is the mall a place for consumerism or community building. Instead, she uses these ideas to turn the mall into a hunting ground. As an independent filmmaker, Cecilia is far closer to the average American than she is to the Hollywood studios responsible for the mall horror boom of the late 20th century. Her art can be used as a glimpse into what the fears and attitudes of citizens were at the time. For example, the 1980s saw a rise of the Satanic Panic, a conspiracy that commonly involved ritual murder and cannibalism. Whether intentional or not, she created a sort of time capsule of 1983 alternative culture. Shopping at the mall, scored by synth-filled electronically produced music, and notions of cannibalistic murder all leave Possibly in Michigan as a unique piece of independent media from a time when productions such as hers were far less common. In fact, Possibly in Michigan only became widely known in the 2020s after COVID sent everyone online. The video gained notoriety on social media and now sits at 15 million views on YouTube. TikTok first took hold of the song, and it was used for an array of different horror trends on the app. The virality on TikTok inevitably flowed over into her YouTube channel. Cecilia now has 126,000 subscribers and continues to make art. The pandemic didn't just increase the time people spent on social media. It also impacted how people shopped. Dead malls were a phenomenon long before COVID, but the pandemic caused strain on an already failing industry. Cecilia Condit used the emptiness of an active mall as part of her storytelling. It's unusual that there's no other people there. In the second piece of media that I look at, I'm also going to feature a nearly empty mall, but this time, the mall is closed. Exactly 40 years after Possibly in Michigan was produced, the concept of online horror was well established. Online horror projects include short stories, films, ARGs, alternate reality games, and plenty of amateur horror analysis videos on every major social media platform. Anyone with access to these platforms can create their own horror media, including me, right now. To compare with Cecilia Condit's work, I will be looking at the 2023 YouTube series, The Oldest View. Specifically, I will be looking at a few minutes from the video in the series also titled The Oldest View. The concept of the series is based on the popular online urban legend, The Backrooms. For those unfamiliar, The Backrooms are based on a 4chan post that shows a strange, windowless, carpeted room. The image scared users who came up with a creepy backstory for the photo. There have been many adaptations of The Backrooms, but the most common explanation is that there are places on Earth that glitch and take you somewhere you shouldn't be able to go. This place is a never-ending expanse of poorly lit, empty, uncomfortable rooms like the one in the original photograph. Soon, the idea expanded into other locations, and now endless variations of The Backrooms exist in corners of creepypasta and online horror communities. For The Oldest View, the series is based on a normal college guy who finds a hole in the ground deep in the woods. Inside this hole is a long tunnel that looks too large and well constructed to be this far out of the way. Through the previous episodes of the series, our protagonist explores the space, which eventually leads him to an empty, seemingly abandoned mall. The lights are out, exits blocked, but the place is not in disrepair. The horror of Possibly in Michigan comes from characters inside the mall. But for Kane Parsons, the horror is found in the existence of the mall itself. Even when there's no reason to believe a threat's inside, the illogical placement of this mall makes you feel like it could swallow you up. The entire mall is supposed to be somewhere under a hill in the wilderness, just sitting there, dark and empty. This fear surrounding an unusually situated, empty public space is fitting for its creation only 3 years after the start of the pandemic. Reality often looked like a post-apocalyptic movie, but those images of empty streets and cities elicit a different kind of fear. They're an aftermath of the tragedy, an ambiguous reminder of whatever happened that caused the place to be empty. For this otherworldly shopping mall, being inside its walls is an active threat, even if the space is dark and empty. It's not an aftermath of the event, it's the event itself. But our protagonist is not truly exploring this mall alone. This is Julian, the Rolling Giant. A real creation from the area's local artist Kevin Obergen, the Rolling Giant was created in 2011 for the Parade of Giants that celebrated the opening of the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge. I recommend going to the website rollinggiantarchive.com. It has the complete story of the Giant's inception, construction, relocations, and involvement in the oldest view. All of my information on the Giant is sourced from that website. Julian was displayed in the Parade of Giants, then put into storage in the Valley View Center Mall. For years, Julian acted as a sort of mascot for the mall. The Midtown Artists Studio, located in the mall, contained Kevin's studio and became the permanent home of Julian the Giant. He was frequently taken into the mall for photo ops. February of 2017 seems to mark the death of the Valley View Center Mall, as the Midtown Arts Organization held its last event. Julian was left in the mall unsupervised and ready to be messed with. After Midtown Artists Studios closed, but before the mall's closure, was the prime time for visitors to mess with Julian. Frequently, pranksters would move the Giant around overnight to scare people who found him in the morning. The materials used to construct Julian were fragile and did not hold up well against time. He also was frequently vandalized, having a significant part of his beard cut off by trespassers. As the mall closed, management cut off communications with Kevin as he tried to arrange to have Julian moved. The Rolling Giant was locked away, forever in the mall, closed, dark, and empty. That's where he stayed until Kane Parsons came along. Julian is, in a way, like the display mannequins or Arthur, an artificial human in a mall stalking someone. And the giant fake flowers as hands on this larger-than-life recreation convey the same concepts of artificial community that come to mind when discussing Possibly in Michigan, especially considering the role that Julian played in the Valley View Center Mall. Knowing his history, Julian feels more like a ghost haunting the mall as a victim rather than a Cecilia Condit-style predator. He's a reminder of the happier, more vibrant days of the mall, when it was a respite of local community artists sharing their work with the public. While the structural inequalities of the shopping mall still apply, this piece is more about the loss of community when shopping malls die. Even outside of the haunting done by Julian, there are other ways in which the shopping mall is haunted. This sort of haunting lays in the deconstructed retail counters and faded old store signs. It's an announcement of a long-finished artist's event that sits on a sign waiting to be removed. The echo of failed stores and faulty management plans pile on top of each other. The Midtown Artists Studio was one of the entities responsible for keeping Julian's spirit alive for so long. When it closed, it felt like a nail in the coffin for the Rolling Giant. It feels hypocritical to talk about how sad it is when a mall dies after going in on all of the ways that it's a structurally violent presence. But consumerism and exclusion in America are only increasing every year. We long for the days of togetherness in our society. Now, most shopping is done completely alone or in an environment where everyone is encouraged to keep to themselves and get in and out as quickly as possible. I miss when shopping was accompanied by community. I don't want to check out and walk into the parking lot. I want to walk out into a communal, nostalgic space where I'm allowed to stay. While many demographics are systematically excluded, the ones who were deemed appropriate customers for the shopping mall are still losing a space. Growing up, I remember all the pop culture references that built the mall up to be a place where tweens and teens could go to hang out with their friends without parental supervision. The same security measures that excluded some people acted as a sort of protection that made parents feel safe to let their children wander unattended within the mall. The security in big box stores that have taken the place of shopping malls are much stricter on children using the space to just hang out. I remember thinking of malls and the arcades inside of them too, where even kids were allowed to run and be free. Now, all of the games are on a phone at home, and the community aspects are all gone. This is part of a larger conversation around community and third spaces, but the hole shopping malls has left in American culture is evident. I even got to experience the joys of hanging out in my local dead mall during COVID. Even in its worst form, the mall provided a space where people can go to spend time together, out of the house. Seeing a place that was once full of life, now in disrepair, can symbolize the way that community among neighbors in this society is decreasing. We're more withdrawn, solitary, and the mall is a reminder of times gone by. Some malls are still alive and well, but these are more rare occurrences. Most malls are slowly succumbing to the capitalist forces that have pushed shopping online. As our society moves forward, malls slip further into our perception of the past. They're a memory or a memorial, with their empty shells littered around suburban America. The large, open, wasted space taunts us with the possibility of what could have taken its place, or what abandoned item could have been left inside, maybe like a giant lurking around the corner. To conclude, malls are a prime location for reflective horror. Their position in the white, middle-class suburban society put them at the forefront of pop culture, but also made their demise far more noticeable. The rise and fall of shopping malls parallels possibly in Michigan and the oldest few. Both are vessels for the creators to project the societal fears of their time onto the background of the shopping mall. I'm so glad to have gotten a chance to work with these two pieces. I love horror, and both of these series have caught my attention for years, made sense, and made you think about your relationship with shopping and horror a little bit differently. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun making this, and maybe I'll see you in part 2. Thank you. Bye.